Hey bass anglers, next week is September and championship season is upon us. There's a lot of clubs and circuits around that have bass fishing championships that are coming up, and September can be a tricky time to fish. Today I'm going to give you one bait, not 5, not 3, not 6, but one that is an excellent bait for September, and it will put big fish in the boat. And not only that, I'm going to give you some secret modifications to that bait to make it even more effective at boating giant bass. So the bait that I want to talk to you about is the Heddon Superspook. And before you turn away, I want to give you some mods to this thing to make it even better. September is a tricky time to fish, and you've already watched a bunch of channels that have 5 or 6 lures. Some call it junk fishing season. Others give you some pretty good tactics, but one thing that they're all talking about is searching for fish, because you're going from this warm weather season in August to the first cold fronts, and then working your way through September. Depending on when your tournaments are, you could be getting into some really cold weather and water temperatures that are much cooled down towards the later part of the month. But to get there, you've got to pre-fish and practice, and you've got to find the fish. And our championship is on a 19,000 acre lowland reservoir system that's got some stained water, and it's got a lot of shallow water, right? And it's got some deep water. And so there's going to be a transition from shallow to deep. And locating those fish while I'm pre-fishing is going to be super important to actually catching big ones when the tournament comes around. Because I've got to find them now, and then I've got to follow them through this transition period and see where they're going to ultimately be for the championship. And there's almost no greater search bait right now than the Spook, and certainly the Super Spook has been super effective in winning a ton of money. But there's problems with this bait. As great as it is, there's problems with it. Let's just talk about a couple of things first that are good about it. One is it's super buoyant, it's got a big profile, and it's got the best rattle in the business for a topwater bait. And I've got an example here. I've got a 13 Fishing Power Slide 130 here, which is an excellent topwater bait as well, but I want to show you the rattle sound. You hear that rattle sound in there? It's got a nice rattle sound, but now listen to the spook. You hear that deep rattle? That deep rattle is unmatched in the business. And one of the reasons why this thing is so effective is its size, its shape, its buoyancy, and that deep rattle. But what's pathetic about this bait, and Heddon should be embarrassed that they even put them on here, are these terrible hooks. They say they're a size 4, they look like they're nickel, or at least nickel plated, and they're kind of turned out at the ends. Well, they're sharp enough. These round bend hooks cause more disastrous fish getaways than anything you could imagine. You've seen it before with people getting a spook fish on, and they're trying to get it to the boat, and they're like, please God, stay on, and they're playing a giant fish, because typically big fish will hit this bait, although all fish will hit this bait. All sizes of bass, rather, will hit this bait. So these hooks are pathetic. They've got to go. The split rings are quality, but the hooks have got to go. And one of the things I do when I'm getting rid of those is I use this Texas Tackle small little split ring tool, super handy. I'm giving you this tip. I'll put it in the description below, because this has been a fantastic bait. I almost do not use the stock hooks on any bait, but certainly not in the Spook. These junky hooks have got to go. And I'm going to put on there the Mustad Ultra Point double strong, double short hooks. I've talked about those, and you'll see them in another video. Maybe I'll link the video at the end. But for example, here's a tricked out bait, a tricked out spook. And you can see the two things that I'm doing. First of all, I'm getting rid of the pathetic hooks. And you can see on top the pathetic OG Heddon hooks. And on the bottom, I've got the Ultra Point hooks, and they are bigger, they're stronger, they're shorter, they're closer to the body of the bait, so they don't allow the fish a lot of leverage to throw it. And these, even though those are small hooks, they're just terrible. That round bend is a disaster for big fish throwing that bait. While these, I've got the slightly turned in bend. They're double short, double strong, keep it close to the body of the bait. And then I also put a feathered treble, same Ultra Point feathered treble on the end of it, and that gives it, as you're sitting it in the water, that extra piece of attractant when that thing is sitting there. Maybe the sun's shining, the iridescence in this tail is just sitting there, and sometimes they just commit to it. And if they get any of these hooks, they're hooked and they're coming to the boat. And then I'm using that 30-pound braid, and I'm using that 7+ foot medium action rod and a high-speed bait casting rod. In my case, I'm using a 6-gill hammer, and I'm using an 8-to-1 gear ratio. So a lot of gear ratio to be able to pick up slack fast, and mostly because I'm using this in a search capacity, I'm burning that thing back to the boat if I see something moving, or if I need to get to another spot, or I'm past my effective area, I can burn this thing back in and get it out there. And when I get the fish hooked with that medium action rod, I've got a lot of power and leverage with that bait casting setup to get this thing in. The medium action allows for surging at the boat. When you get a big 5+ pound smallmouth or largemouth bass on, it can be game on, and a lot of the times that's where these pathetic hooks, you know, you lose the race. You get them to the side of the boat, they make a surge, they're gone with those junk hooks. These hooks seem to hold better and allow you to get the fish to the boat faster, and the whole system together allows for a higher percentage of getting fish to the boat. So supercharge your Super Spook by getting those garbage hooks off, get an attractant hook on the end, and then use an effective setup to match the whole thing, and use it through September. You're going to be searching for fish, you're going to be looking at points and flats, and you're going to be following them to deeper water, right? And so as you comb the system, you want to have an effective search bait. There's almost no better at finding the big fish that will play in the tournament than the Super Spook. Hope you found that tip helpful. Please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time on the water.